Good afternoon, and thanks to everybody who joined us today at Northeastern University's Center for Research Innovation Spinout Academy session regarding non-dilutive funding and support here at Northeastern. My name is Katie Hemphill, and I am Director of Technology Ventures and Talent Network at the Center for Research Innovation, and will be helping moderate this presentation today. Your hosts today are myself and my colleague, Sal Darhi, who joins me. We are the venture team within the Center for Research Innovation, and we do our best to help foster community as well as provide spinouts who have Northeastern intellectual property with the right resources at the right time to help them spin out further and move faster as it relates to their business build process. Some of the programs we've offered to date include an entrepreneurship consultant program, subsidized grant writing support, pitch support through a platform called Scroobius, design consulting support, and more. All of these have been pilots to date, and we do hope to receive funding shortly to expand these pilot programs to the greater spin-out community. The agenda for today's presentation includes a welcome from me. So thank you to everyone who was able to join today on time. We really appreciate you being here, and we look forward to presenting you with some information and then receiving your questions so that we can answer them to the best of our ability. My most fabulous colleagues from research development and the provost office join me today, Jenna Horan and Amy Carroll, who are going to speak specifically to tier grant support programs through the research development office that will be covered by Jenna, as well as the Impact Engine program here at Northeastern, which will be covered by Amy. I will then cover what's available through the Center for Research Innovation as it relates to non-dilutive funding and what's available in Northeastern's greater entrepreneurial ecosystem to ensure that you're aware about all of the non-dilutive funding mechanisms here at Northeastern available to you as scientific academic researchers first and founders second. After that, we will open the floor for audience question and answer period, and then we'll wrap up. So without further ado, I'm going to hand this virtual microphone over to my esteemed colleague, Jenna Horan, who's going to speak about the tier program. And Jenna, if you could begin your presentation with a brief introduction so that folks know who you are, and then share about the tier program, that'd be great.
Sure. Hi, everyone. Jenna Horan. I am in research development, which is under the main provost office. So we have a central team, and then most of the colleges nowadays also have a research director that works with their associate dean for research. I've been at Northeastern for almost 9 years, and I am the administrator of our internal grant programs. Katie, you can go to the next slide. So I recognize some names today as former awardees or submitters for our Tier 1 program. Our Tier 1 program is our biggest and longest running internal grant program. They're for interdisciplinary teams. The awards are up to $50,000, and they are 15 months, and we award up to 25. Typically, we receive 60 to 80 applications a year, and it is a yearly submission deadline, which is typically in January. This year, it's January 18th. So it's important to note that the awards are jointly funded by the colleges and the provost. So the colleges are very involved in the review process, and each college publishes priorities for every Tier 1 cycle. Those are published on our website, and we really encourage all PIs to look at both your college's priorities and those of your PIs so that you're making sure that you're really hitting what the colleges are looking for. We also have 2 new requirements this year. So beginning with this cycle, all proposals must have a minimum of 2 PIs who have their home tenure appointments or equivalent in different colleges. And then for proposals with more than 2 PIs, there must be a minimum of 2 different home colleges between what we call the contact co-PI, who's kind of like the lead PI, and their co-PIs. Additionally, starting with this cycle, some colleges will also start limiting how frequently a PI can receive funding to no more than every other cycle, and that information is on our website. So like I said, this is our most popular program. This is for faculty only. If you are non-tenure track, then you would need to check with your college's ADR or research director to make sure that you are eligible. We do see research scientists, we do see teaching professors from different colleges, but that particular eligibility is up to the college itself. Katie, you can go to the next slide. So we also have our Tier 2 program, which is for major federal proposal opportunities. So this helps you put together a proposal. So you do have to identify an opportunity up front. We ask that you give us at least 3 months before the sponsor deadline. And we do give grants of up to $50,000, though usually it ranges more in the 15 to 30,000. And that's for things like an outside grant writer, red team reviews, graphics support, etc. And all of this will be reviewed by your college before it's submitted to our office. This is our, I'd say, second most popular program. There is a rolling deadline. So just as long as you get that in at least 3 months in advance. Sometimes, as we know, a lot of agencies don't give you 3 months. So there are case-by-case exceptions to that. We have a full list of the guidelines and the application on our website, which is listed here. And we also have a broader list of activities that can be supported by this program. And then Katie, you can go to the next. So our Tier 3 program is, I would say, our most underutilized, but also our biggest grant program in terms of number. So this really provides support for development of broad multidisciplinary research initiatives and centers that will position the university to become a national leader in an emerging or sustained area of research. So that kind of sounds like impact engines, right? They are two different things. Tier 3 is really more of a planning grant, and it is for up to $150,000. And these can really vary. And because we've had so few, it's actually kind of hard to give some direct examples sometimes. So what we suggest is that you start with talking to your research development contact, which we have listed on our website. Talk about what you're looking to do, who would be involved, who would be your collaborators at Northeastern, who would be your collaborators outside of Northeastern, what external funding opportunities you would be looking into, and then come together with a basic plan that you can present to research development so that we can guide you to say, yes, this is definitely in the vein of Tier 3, or no, this isn't. And we also have an application and further guidelines on our Tier 3 website.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Jenna. Just so that everyone's aware, before we move on to impact engines here, I know that we're sharing a lot of information on these slides regarding contact information, as well as links to specific areas of websites that may be helpful for reference. This presentation will be shared post event today, and you will have access to these slides so that you can directly click on some of these links and or copy some of the contact information so that you can ask questions directly to program leads and managers as needed. So thanks again, Jenna. Really great to have you here today. She'll be with us throughout the presentation and here for the questions and answers period, which we will take at the end of the presentation section. So with that, I'm going to hand the virtual microphone, thank you, over to Amy.
Great. Thank you, Katie. Oh, there we go. Sorry, it was a little bit different. You had a transition slide. Sorry about that pause. I'm Amy Carroll, Vice Provost for Global Impact here at Northeastern. I've been at Northeastern for about a year now. And prior to that, I had launched the Research Development and Strategy Office at Brown University. So I run the Impact Engines program, and this is another internal funding opportunity for projects that are, as one person once described it to me, shovel ready, ready to get out there and make an impact. So what is an Impact Engine project, and what is this program? This is a priority program meant to help implement the vision of the academic plan that Northeastern is a place that enables faculty and researchers to transcend disciplinary boundaries and bring the expertise of a world-class university to achieve meaningful impact in the world. Impact Engine oh, I'm not done yet, sorry. Could you go back to the, thank you. Impact Engine projects are meant to move the needle forward on a societal challenge in a measurable way over a 3 to 5 year time frame. So they are first inspired by the problem they are trying to move the needle on. Unlike research clusters, which are topic driven, and more appropriate, as Jenna mentioned, for like a planning grant from the Tier 3 program, or for discussion with your research development staff, or the new Senior Vice Provost for Institutes, Centers, and Impact Engines, Srinivas Tadigadaba. So as an example, if you wanted to characterize the spread of medical misinformation on social media, this would be expanding information about the spread of medical misinformation on social media. That would not be an impact engine. You probably would, and it would probably only be a single discipline pursuing it. But if you wanted to identify and remove misinformation from social media, that could be an impact engine because it's moving the needle on a problem. And it would likely require collaboration between, say, a computer scientist who understands how to write an algorithm to do this, a social scientist who understands behavior on social media, perhaps even someone from the business school who understands the business models for those companies. Someone from the law school might be needed who understands the First Amendment, and so on. You could probably find an expert from almost every college at the university who could help with that problem. So now I'm ready for the next slide. So this is sort of the scope of the impact engines to date. I know we're in 2024 and this says fall 2023, but Jenna only gave me a couple days notice and then I got the flu. So we have the fall 2023 scope here to share with you. We have 11 active projects and one that's been completed. You can see the scope of the involvement of the Northeastern community, external partnerships, 8 of our global campuses, all of the major colleges and schools. And the team that makes this all run is myself, Olivia Saucier, who's our program manager, and we have half the time of Wendy Friedman, who's a senior evaluator at Northeastern's Public Evaluation Lab. So the next slide, please. So in this slide, I'm providing an example of one of the funded impact engines, and this is the one that is completed. And I picked this example specifically for this presentation. So AdaTech, or Advanced Design Augmentation through AI, was actually one of our shortest and smallest by dollar value impact engines, but it's had a huge impact. This project started as a federally funded basic research project on AI-based design. When the Impact Engine program was launched, they recognized that this could provide an accelerated pathway to apply their basic research to a specific design challenge. And so they worked with an international apparel company and developed a prototype for testing by this industry partner. They got Spark Fund support for it, and now they have a startup company and are able to say that their partnership is with Puma using this software. Not every impact engine is necessarily going to start up a company and have a profitable partnership like this. I mean, if you're doing something more community-based, like our Cradle to Prisons pipeline impact engine, your impact is going to be helping advocates break that pipeline that disproportionately sends minorities into the prison system. And that is a huge impact, even if it's not starting up a new company. So on the next slide, I'm just showing you that we have a decision tree to help you figure out if your project could be an impact engine. I'm not going to walk through all of the questions and answers in this decision tree. I would just point out that all the questions on the left largely lead to you're not quite ready yet. And all of the questions on the right lead you to come talk to us and let's see what we think about how it fits. The next slide, also, I'm not going to read to you, but it's there for you to look at when you get a copy of the slides, are the review questions that we use to assess impact engine projects. We're launching a new process in 2024 where we will be having people submit up to a 5-page discussion paper, and we will be sending that out for internal review. In the top set of questions are the questions we will ask internal reviewers to weigh in on. In the bottom set are the additional criteria that a project might be judged by, or to help prioritize if we have more highly reviewed projects than funding for. So we're kind of turning, a little bit to how federal agencies do this kind of work. And then the next slide gives you an overview of this new process. We are going to start instituting deadlines so that we'll have 2 deadlines a year. The first deadline for 2024 is February 20th. And I want to emphasize, we really want you to come talk to us. We're happy to talk to you. I've got time blocked on my calendar the whole month of January and into the first week of February, hoping that lots of people come talk to us with their ideas so that we don't waste anyone's time putting in a proposal that maybe isn't quite ready yet. And with having deadlines, it will hold us accountable to you as the applicants, and it will also hold you accountable to us because there's a little bit of feedback and refinement that goes into these because they're a new way of doing things. The second deadline will be in September. It'll be a couple weeks after classes start, so that we can make decisions by January 2025 for that second round. And my next to last slide is just a plug. If you're looking for inspiration to propose your own impact engine project and become part of the group of funded projects, we released an annual report from the inaugural year. It's really, really inspiring. I find it great to look at, to just remind ourselves of the great work being done by a lot of our colleagues here at Northeastern. And the last slide is just contact information. So thank you, and happy to answer any questions.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Amy. So we will proceed through a couple of additional examples of internal funding mechanisms available to all of you as our scientific academic founder community. And then we will take questions for Jenna, Amy, and myself on what was presented today. Please feel free to put questions in the chat if you don't want to forget them, as we share about a lot of opportunities available to you, and we'll be happy to field them when we get to the Q&A section. So with that, I'm now going to talk about the Spark Fund. Many of you are aware about the Center for Research Innovation's Spark Fund, and we will share a bit more for anybody that's newer to the program here. So I want to share a couple of fast facts about the CRI Spark Fund. The Spark Fund is meant to help bridge the gap between promising lab results and commercially viable prototypes, right? So we are meant to take research and now bring it towards closer to commercialization ready. So AdaTech, the example that Amy offered in her Impact Engine portion, actually received an Impact Engine award, brought their research further to a point that they were then able to apply for a Spark Fund and really demonstrate the prospect commercial value of that due to all of the work they did with their Impact Engine funding first. So it's been interesting to see a couple of our spinouts and our academic scientific founders, navigate Northeastern's internal ecosystem. With the Spark Fund, you can receive a maximum of up to $50,000 per grant per cycle. We award a minimum of 5 grants per cycle. The commercialization considerations do have to be there. So as part of your application process, you will have the opportunity to give us a 3-page executive summary that really describes what it is your research does and how it's going to make an impact. We do focus on that impact portion, and we want to be sure that you've thought through what you feel is going to be the commercialization path to impact with your research. So the commercialization considerations for you to think through as you determine whether or not the Spark Fund is a fit for you and what it is you're working on in your lab is that you do have to commit to increasing economic and societal impact. You are not required to start a company as a result. We do have several folks who apply for the Spark Fund who do believe that they will ultimately spin a company out of their lab, and AdaTech is a good example of one of those companies that did that, but you are not required to start a new company in order to be eligible for the Spark Fund. So company considerations in the event you are going to spin a company out as a result of the research you advance with a Spark Fund, for example, we don't take any equity as part of the Spark Fund. There's no equity requirement for the grant, and we do have several spin-out support services available, which I mentioned a bit about at the start of this presentation. So that's my high-level overview of the CRI Spark Fund for anybody who was not aware about how that works. Happy to share more. And with that, we're going to leave the kind of research-oriented funding mechanisms here at Northeastern and move over to the funding mechanisms available for your spin-out, right? The startup company that you're beginning to ensure that you're aware about all of that funding available here at the university that is also non-dilutive in nature as well. So with that, I'm going to go back here to talk a little bit about NUSI programs. So NUSI stands for Northeastern University's Center for Entrepreneurship Education, and it's run out of the DeMoore McKim School of Business, but available to everyone that has a Northeastern affiliated company. When they say Northeastern affiliated, that means that you have some formal affiliation with the university. You can be a current student, an alum, an employee, staff, or faculty member in order to be eligible to participate in their programming. The programs that I highlighted here today are programs that are either attached to funding or provide business mentorship that have been really relevant and helpful for some of our scientific academic founders. So Northeastern does have an NSF I-Course site program. This program is actively recruiting to start a cohort in February. So if that's something of interest, I can put you in touch with that program manager to ensure that you're considered, as part of the cohort that will launch in February 2024. There's also an alpha fund through NUSI. This provides up to $10,000, generally in tranches of $5,000 a piece, to further your prototype. While this is not a lot of money, it is a bit of money, which is helpful when you are thinking through developing that minimum viable product. Then there's IDEA. IDEA is Northeastern's student-led accelerator. Often folks confuse the student-led portion of this title with that IDEA is only for students. That is not the case. IDEA is student-led, but available to all. So this is a business accelerator. It is self-paced, so it's self-driven. And if you join, you will be responsible for ensuring that you meet their different milestones to receive the resources that they have available through their program. There are 3 stage gates affiliated with IDEA: Ready, Set, and Go. Ready is very focused on that product market fit and ensuring that you've done your due diligence to ensure that you have a product market fit that you can describe in full. Then they have the Set stage, which is very focused on your business model build and ensuring that you have a sustainable revenue model to go to market with, and you know what market you're going to attempt to enter first. Then their 3rd stage gate is called Go. And in Go, IDEA is really focused on ensuring that you have what you need to launch out of Northeastern, right, out of the IDEA Accelerator and into society. So through that Go stage, IDEA does have a gap fund of their own. Their gap fund is really focused on helping you acquire your 1st, 2nd, 5th customer to ensure that your launch to market is successful. They offer up to $30,000 per startup in tranches of $10,000 a piece. That gap fund program allows you to apply every other month throughout the year. So about 6 times a year, they have applications open and you can apply for up to $10,000 at a time. I do believe that you have to wait at least 1 month in between submitting for additional gap funding. They want to be sure that you used your initial gap funding prior to applying for more. So that's the IDEA funding opportunity. Prior to that, in the Go stage, they do have other in-kind resources available, such as Amazon Web Service credits, in-kind office hours with legal providers, and marketing providers and such. So highly recommend that you get in touch with them if you can use any of those services. And last but not least, NUSI also runs the McCarthy's Venture Mentor Network. This is an opportunity to meet with business mentors and receive team mentorship specific to your vertical as you attempt to launch your successful spinout. So those are some of the programs available through NUSI that I think are very relevant to this community in particular, but you are more than welcome to head to their website after this presentation to read more about all that they offer. With that, I want to talk a bit more about the rest of Northeastern's entrepreneurship ecosystem. So there are a couple of other funding mechanisms as part of the ecosystem that you should be aware about. First, there is the Women Who Empower Innovator Award, who offer awards to folks who identify as women and other in up to $10,000 grants. You do not have to have a business to apply. You can apply with an idea. You do not have to have a startup in place. They want to support the community in the facilitation of thinking through these ideas and attempting to make impact through these awards. So their applications actually just opened recently this month, and they're actively seeking their next Innovator Award recipients. So if you feel that this program is applicable to you, please get in touch with them and apply as applicable. The other funding mechanism here at the university is NU Impact. NU Impact is a social impact fund. Generally, they do invest in community-based businesses that are fulfilling a gap that services underrepresented community members. So they usually invest between 25 and 50,000. They are also actively seeking startups to invest in this cycle. They invest in approximately one startup per semester. So they seek their recipients either between now and end of February and or August and end of September, so that they can award at the end of the kind of student semester, because this is a student-led societal impact fund. So with that, there is a link on here that brings you to Northeastern's entrepreneurship ecosystem offerings page. You will find links to all of these resources and more on that page, and I do highly recommend that you bookmark this page in the event you're ever seeking anything from funding to something different. On this page, you'll also find organizations such as Scout that offer free design marketing services. They do full brand designs, but they also take on ad hoc projects, which is an update from what they did in the past. So highly recommend you check them out. And then there's also Generate, for example, which is a small scale prototyping lab of either physical prototypes and or wireframes for some of your software prototypes. So that's two of many, right? At any given time, there are over 20 orgs on this page that are represented. So highly recommend that you take a look at that when you have a moment. With that, we're going to close out kind of the speaking portion of the presentation here. I do ask that those of you on the call who would like to join us save the date for our next in-person event in the Idea Lab, which will be held on February 15th and focused on building confidence to better tell your story. And when we talk about the story, we're really talking about the business value of your spinout. And so we hope to see many of you there. With that, we will take questions. Please feel free to come off mute, and turn your camera on if you'd like. We'd be more than happy to hear from you real time.
So thank you, Katie. That's really nice, all of you who presented. First of all, yeah, thank you for sharing these slides with us, because I think there are many, especially websites and links that would be helpful to look at. I have a question for Amy, specifically on the impact engine. So in other funding mechanisms that we discussed here, such as the tier programs as well as the Spark Fund, there is a cap in the amount of funds that are provided to faculty. I'm wondering, what is the typical funding structure for the impact engine and timeline when these are allocated to faculty?
So there is no typical funding structure for an impact engine, because it's such a novel way of approaching things. They've all been quite different. There are two stages for impact engine funding. So there's a development stage, which is up to $200,000, does not include significant hires nor any significant capital investment in, like, a mass spec or something like that. And then beyond the development stage is the engine stage. And development stage is 2 years or less typically. So it's sort of like, it sounds like a promising idea, but we want to see a proof of concept, some adoption perhaps by an external partner. It really depends on what your project is, before investing a much larger amount, where maybe it would include hires or capital investment, or in that case, then 3 to 5 years of funding.
Okay, thank you.
And the types of things that can be funded are the same types of things that would be funded by any sort of external grant when you get to that larger stage. A little bit of faculty time, postdocs, grad students, data management services, mass specs, all those kind of standard things.
Yeah, and I guess my sort of in the same vein of thinking of impact engine or any other, now that Northeastern has so many of these regional campuses, including international campuses, how, one thing that I personally and maybe some of my colleagues share is that we are insulated in Boston towards knowing what resources are available in some of these other campuses. How can, if we were to collaborate with, for example, right now we're seeing a lot of emails around the Northeastern initiative in Dublin. But many of us are not familiar with what exactly are available resources in Dublin, and how can we create this transatlantic partnership. So I wonder if there is a way that I know this is not the right forum, but is there a way for us to get better informed about the resources available at other campuses, such that we can find the right PIs, that partnering PI in those other institutions? Because I think there's a lot of efforts, but we as a faculty within a department, we're not really informed about what those are.
Can I take that one first? So I asked the same question when I just came to Northeastern a year ago, just for like, how do I find out about faculty area of expertise, right? And there is a database I know where you can like search by keyword. It's run out of Jenna doesn't run it, but it's run out of the central RD office. And when I stop talking and let someone else answer too, I will find it and put the link in the chat.
Amy, just to interrupt you for a second, it's called Academic Analytics. Mansoor, you might be familiar with it. University Decision Support has actually kind of taken back some control. So I can send that to Katie, and Katie can circulate it. But that is a great way to go in and search by keyword or department and see who else is out there in Northeastern or external to Northeastern.
And then the other thing I was going to add is that through the impact engines work this past year and just fielding people's ideas, we had, I think I counted the other day, more than 63 ideas proposed and discussed with us since I started opening up like my calendar for discussions in February of 2023. And we saw some themes emerging. So there are a couple themes, one for sure in the spring. We haven't decided yet the timing of the second one, that we're going to host some workshops on in person in Boston. And we're going to invite, this means we saw like 3 or 4 independent teams propose an idea around this theme. So we're going to start with those teams, but then we're going to go to the deans and the ADRs and the chairs and say, we're having a half-day workshop on this topic. Who else would you recommend? We're going to search that database with the keywords for that topic. I'm being purposely vague because I'm not ready to officially announce it, right? But so in talking with Srinivas, the new senior vice provost, who's looking at multidisciplinary initiatives across the university, from impact engine projects all the way up to institutes and in between, he and I are a team, and we're hoping to think of more of these kind of thematic things to bring people together. So that's one way to keep an eye out for invitations like that, but it certainly is a challenge. I personally, I just make it a point to read NGN in my inbox every day and make notes of interesting articles and reach out to people. Stop babbling.
No, that was great. Thanks, Amy, and thanks, Jenna. I think that the resources that you're providing are really helpful and ones that we all need to be aware about. Do we have other questions that we'd like answered while we have a few more minutes here together?
Maybe just a brief question here. Thanks a lot for the information provided during this meeting. Katie, you mentioned a couple of times spin-out support services that you provide through your center. What did you mean? And I possibly missed the beginning of the presentation. I had to move from one office to another. Maybe you already discussed that, but if it would be great to learn more.
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of our spin-out support services to date have been in pilot status. I know I see a couple of you smiling. Some of you have participated. Some of you have not participated yet, but are excited to participate. So we piloted across 14 spin-outs last fiscal year, 5 different pilot opportunities that ranged from entrepreneurship, consultant support, to marketing design support, to pitch content support. And then we also piloted grant writing support through a partner called Inspiralia, And we piloted sending 6 companies to 2 different conferences and preparing them for those conferences to ensure that they could put their best foot forward. We actually attended one of those conferences with them and sat in on meetings, etc. So those were the spin-out support services that have been offered to date to a handful of companies that had demonstrated forward momentum on their own, had been in touch with us often, engaged with us when we asked questions. And some of this was offered before some of you started up. And as a result, you weren't part of that pilot programming. Cuz on the call, he was a part of some of this pilot programming. He was very in touch with us. We knew what he was up to when we were seeking candidates to participate. And we are working right now with senior leadership to determine whether or not it would make sense to fund and scale some of this support programming that we've offered. So at the moment, what's at large available to all are these community events, right, where we're able to share information and provide some blanket opportunities for feedback on pitches. Alexander, I know that you've attended several of our in-person events and received some feedback on your elevator pitch, and hopefully, a pitch presentation in the future. But that's what's been available at large at the moment, and we are working on scaling the other pilot programming that I mentioned.
Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Yes, Ka.
Quick question. So on one of the slides, there is the McCarthy Mentorship Network.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit more about that and whether it's suitable for biotech in particular?
Absolutely. So the McCarthy's Venture Mentor Network is a volunteer mentorship opportunity. So who it is they have in the program ranges at any given time. I managed that program for 2.5 years before I transitioned over to the Center for Research Innovation. And they've engaged over 400 volunteer mentors, right? In their, now I think they're at 7+ years of existence. And at any given time, there are probably between about 115 and 150, volunteer mentors that have capacity to assist. So they should have somebody in biotech. They have in the past. Also, they have a partner organization called the Health Sciences Entrepreneurs. You may have met Eugene Buff before. They have a full-time entrepreneur in residence that Bouvet has hired to assist, and he can help source mentors as needed to ensure that your vertical in particular is covered. So if you haven't already been in touch with them and you're interested in having more of a team of mentors, behind what it is you're working on, I highly recommend it. When I was over with the program, we did have a variety of different mentorship segments. So there were mentors that were interested in being the first mentor you met and getting you prepared to pitch or present to the rest of the mentors on your needs so that they could build a really great team around you. And then we had what we call business build mentors, right? So mentors that really wanted to help you think through your business model, ensure that you're presenting your value most appropriately, right? And tell your story to the best of your ability. And then on the back end, there are invest mentors. So these are mentors that are either investors themselves and or have raised money as an entrepreneur successfully and can speak to what that took, right? So dependent on where you're at in your process, you can head to the McCarthy's Venture Mentoring Network, share with them what it is your specific business build needs are today, and they will attempt to build a team around you to ensure that you're supported through the next stage of your business build process.
Sounds really good. Thank you.
Absolutely. Any other questions while we have some time here together? Or anything, Amy, Jenna, that you feel that we didn't cover in the presentation that we want to be sure we call out? Sal, you as well?
No comments from me.
Awesome. So what we're going to do is post-presentation today, we're going to share the slides. The slides have a lot of information. For those of you that are interested in impact engines, right, and the research development tier grants, links to those areas in particular will be offered. We also will offer links to the Spark Fund area on the Center for Research Innovation's website. When it comes to the overall entrepreneurship ecosystem, the link that will be provided is the one that heads to the entrepreneurship ecosystem offerings page. I do highly recommend that you spend 15+ minutes, kind of looking at those offerings. They have little value props, right, that you can read through to determine what it is that org does. But I do highly recommend that you spend, as I said, 15+ minutes reading through that page, because there are over 20 organizations on there that offer free services, talent, resources to you as Northeastern affiliated founders. So be sure that you familiarize yourself with all that's available to you so that you don't miss out on an opportunity to make the most of this internal entrepreneurship ecosystem we have. On that offerings page, you'll find the McCarthy's Venture Mentoring Network, in addition to everything I discussed that the Center for Entrepreneurship Education offers. So everything that we covered here, today on this call will be on that page, available for your reference. And if you do have questions or you need further assistance in navigating our internal, funding ecosystem, and I say funding because that was the point of the call today, but there's a lot more than funding offered, right, through Northeastern's ecosystem. Please be in contact with me. Sal and I would be more than happy, to help you navigate this ecosystem, because it's not necessarily straightforward and not everybody proceeds through the ecosystem in the same way every time, right? The ecosystem is meant to be agile, flexible, and meet you where you're at. So sometimes that's helpful and sometimes it's a little confusing, and we are more than happy to do our best in helping you navigate so that you can make the most of it. With that, I thank everybody and appreciate you joining today.